Okay guys, welcome to another video. In today's video I want to do a brief review on the Bluetti eb3a. So what this is a small sized solar generator. For those that don't know, a solar generator is a lithium ion battery pack with built-in charge controller, with built-in inverter, which allows you, so this is a glorified lithium battery with a fancy screen and an inverter which converts DC power to AC, which is your normal wall plug. You can also charge DC like cigarette lighter type of equipment, and then many of them, where the solar part of the solar generator comes in, is most of them have this input plug of different sorts and makes, and this plug it allows you to plug into portable or permanent mounted solar panels. So these units can charge straight from solar panels. We're not talking about the solar panels in today's video because a lot of different brands make them, and you can use like one brand of solar panel and charge a different brand of solar generator. So this is the Bluetti eb3a, and I'm not going to go through all the technical specs because frankly they're on the website. I don't remember all the exact specifications, and I don't want to bore you with details, and it would be a lot quicker for you to go to the website and check out all the tech specs. In this video I just wanted to talk about my experience with this unit, the pros, the cons, and if this is right for you and if I would buy it again. So the eb3a is a slight departure from the normal Bluetti products in that it is Bluetooth capable, and you download a Bluetooth or a app, an Android or iPhone app, and you open it up. You can pair this unit with your phone, and from the phone you can monitor input and output of the unit. So you can monitor how much power you're drawing and how much power you're putting in. You can also alter the charging, the amount of watts for charging, which is one of the first which is one of the first reasons why I bought this unit. This is only 268 watt hours, and so for solar generators this is on the smaller side. And many small solar generators, you can get them for inexpensive, but many of them, they might charge at like 50 watts, 60 watts. I don't know if they make it anymore, but there was another Bluetti small solar generator that they made, and it looked really good, but then in the fine print I found out, or maybe it was a different brand, but in the small print I found out it only charged at like 60 watts, and that's watts per hour. So roughly, if you have a 240 watt unit and it charges at 60 watts, it'll take 4 hours to charge if it's completely empty. Well, this unit is a departure in that it's a small capacity, 268, but I have it plugged in charging right now, and that's input, so it's charging at like 263, 264, 265, and that's standard mode. Now on the Bluetti app that you can download, you can toggle and you can go to eco mode, which I don't fully understand why you would go to that mode, but it charges at I think like 220 watts, and you can toggle it to a turbo mode, which there's a fan in here to keep it cool, and I switched it to that when I first got it, just because I was curious, and I noticed that the fan would kick on So it was just, but it wasn't loud. It just made, right now it's charging, it's not really making any noise. The turbo, some might argue constantly discharging it and then recharging it on the turbo mode may shorten the lifespan of the unit. I'm not sure, but I left it on the standard charging because the difference between, I forget the exact number because I've had this unit for a while, but I want to say maybe around 300 to 320. So instead of taking 1 hour from empty, it took like 40 minutes or 45 minutes, which that's cool. But to be honest, I'm normally not discharging this all the way down to 0 unless I don't intend to, which I'll get into in a second. The other reason I bought this and I found it really attractive compared to its competitors is its form factor. Now, it might not be the smallest one out there. Oh, and if you can hear, that fan just kicked on. But it's in the standard charging mode. It's not loud. So I have a tape measure here and I'm recording. I'm holding the camera, but we're looking at about 7 inches and about 7 inches and 10. So it's fairly compact, but when I said form factor, what I liked about this unit is it's a box and it's a cube. Other competitors out there, they have fixed handles that curve up so you can carry them easy, but it just takes up a lot of bulk, or it makes it to be bulky, or they have protrusions or goofy on the sides. And I like how this is just very sleek. For size comparison, this is just an iPad with a keyboard case, right? And if I set it on top, you can see the iPad is maybe an inch wider, but suffice to say, it's a very space efficient form factor, which is another reason why I bought it. So far, I bought it for the fast charging and for the form factor. Now, the third reason I chose this unit is because it sounded good on paper, and that's the 600 watt inverter. Now, I like having the capability of being able to power up to 600 watts, but you have to keep in mind that the bigger the inverter, because small units, a lot of them might only be 200 watt inverter and 200 to 300 watt hours. The bigger the inverter, and the inverter is a device that converts DC or battery power, direct current, to AC or alternating current, which is your typical wall outlet. The inverter is the mechanism or the piece of the puzzle in this unit that converts it from DC to AC. But for that conversion to happen, it uses electricity, or it uses power, because it uses power, plus there's a conversion. When you convert, I know I'm not explaining this good. When you convert, you get a conversion loss is the word I'm looking for. So in the bigger the inverter, the more, like, let's say you have a 600 watts, but you're only drawing 10 watts. That 600 watt inverter's still going to consume that small amount of power, whether you're only running 10 watts or if you're running the full 600. So as the size of the generator gets larger in capacity, they generally have larger inverters. And we're seeing some now that large ones, they have 1,000, 2,000, some even like 3,000 watts, which means that's how much you can draw at the same time. Now, what I found with this, being a small capacity but having a large inverter is the battery gets depleted very quickly. Now, many people will say, well, because it's the low capacity. Sort of, but I think the 600 watt inverter is to blame. For a while, I had some small electronics plugged in to here, and they weren't drawing, maybe 10, 20 watts, maybe. And it would kill this unit really quick. And I think the reason for that is because of the really oversized inverter, right? So just keep that in mind, that it's good to have that just in case. But if you're only wanting to power, say, like a modem, router, and charge electronics, and maybe a TV, the downside of having that oversized inverter is, and people in the comment, you can find the correct term. I'm blanking on the term, but you kind of lose efficiency, right? So ideally, if you're, say, going to have 100 watts plugged into this, to get the most efficiency, you'd want like a 1 to 200 watt inverter. But when you have a far oversized inverter, you're going to consume more electricity than if you had a proper sized one. So that was one of the reasons I bought it. But then I found out, I don't think I've ever plugged outside of testing. Most of the time, at the most, there might be 100 watts. Now, the advantage of the 600 watts for a prepper or a power outage situation is you might want to power, like, not a microwave, but you might want to power something that draws 600 watts, but you're only going to use it for like a minute or 2 minutes. So that's where that would come in handy. But if you're wanting to use this in a everyday setting for van life, for example, I wouldn't plan on using a lot of the AC, which gets to one thing, which is a pro and a con. You see there's a power button, and power button. So this flat power button, you press it when it turns the screen on, and you press it again and the light comes on. That turns on the inverter so you can use AC power, and you press it again, turn it off. This button, you press it, and now the USB and the USBC work. And then this you press for the flashlight. So what that means is, I would say 90% or 95% of the time I've used this unit, it's mainly for charging electronics. It has a USB-C that goes up to 100 watts and 2 USB-A, which go up to 3 amps each. So if you're charging a cell phone or an iPad or a computer, given the options, and most people understand this, but given the options, because they make those wall cubes that you plug into an outlet and then plug a USB, don't charge like that. Take the wall cube off, take the wall cube off and plug directly into USB. That is just more efficient. So you're going exactly from DC to DC, and you're not converting it to AC and then converting it back to DC. And most of this, a lot of people know, but just for some people that are new to these machines. So this plug is a USB-C, USB-C, right, on each side. So you plug it in here, and then you plug it in to an iPad or cell phone, and it's charging, or it's not charging yet because this isn't turned on. Now when we press the button, it turns the screen on, no output, and you press it again and the light comes on, and we're at 2 watts, 15 watts, 23, 22. So I think that's kind of what this charges the iPad at. And different cables and different machines or electronics charge at different outputs. So another reason why I got this unit is it has pass-through charging. And pass-through charging, I think most modern ones have pass-through charging. And what that means is right now I'm charging from the wall and I'm discharging from the USB-C, charging an iPad. Now, many people might think, well, that's not efficient. Just charge your iPad from the outlet. And while that might be true, like for example, it's charging at 260, and this, I guess, is where you may want to switch the turbo setting, or that's where the turbo setting might make sense, because it's charging at 268, 270 in that area, and then it's discharging 23 watts to charge the iPad. So you take the input and subtract the output, and right, so the more stuff you have plugged in, it's going to slow down charging. So if you switch the turbo setting, you're going to be charging at a higher wattage, and then you can output your devices and still charge this machine really quick. Now, the reason I like pass-through charging for a device like this is one area that you could use this if you want kind of a prepared home is, whether you like it or not, technology surrounds us, right? Technology is just, it's kind of here to stay. And many people use Blink and Ring cameras and different cameras that are wireless, or doorbells. They make doorbells that have a video camera, or outdoor security cameras. And generally they're all wireless and battery powered. But for them to work and for you to access them on your cell phone, you plug in a module and you link that to your router. So those cameras send information to that device that allows you to access it on your phone in live time. So if your electricity goes out, even if you're not home, and your modem and router turn off, that means you won't have access to your Blink or Ring cameras or security equipment. And there's lots of other brands that do this as well. So one area that this might work is you have this plugged into your wall, and you plug your modem and router into these outlets. So that means it's always charging and always discharging, and it has circuitry in here that will protect it. So it's not like if you don't unplug this when it's full, it's not going to blow up. It just quits charging. So you can have your modem and router plugged in here, and because of the form factor, they can like sit on top or next to it. Plus, this is a pretty good looking unit. It's sleek, but it's not over the top, so it'd blend in with your other electronics. And that means if your power was to go out, and let's say your modem router, let's say it's drawing 26 watts, that means that this would last for 10 hours after your power went out, which means if you're away from home, the power goes out, your devices will continue to work for 10 hours after, and your modem router never shut off because it's always drawing power from here. So if we cut power to this box, it's uninterrupted. So the modem router will just not realize that there's no power coming into the box. And to be honest, that was kind of originally what I was going to use this box for. But like we talked about, and if it's plugged in, it's not that big of an issue. But that 600 watt inverter, but you have devices that are drawing like maybe 30 watts, it isn't all that efficient. So I tried it, and yeah, it works, but it might not be the best tool for the job. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there's a wireless charger up here, which works when it wants to and doesn't work when it wants to, which is going to get to the ugly or the cons of this machine. We talked about the specs, some of them, the basic ones, and we talked about reasons why I bought the unit. And the last reason I bought the unit was Bluetti. Bluetti is like one of the biggest names in town when it comes to solar generators. I wanted to get a name brand. There's many people out there that use less known brands. I wanted to stick with a name brand to kind of just have customer support and kind of a little bit better peace of mind that it's not going to break. Well, as it turns out, this machine works when it wants to, and when it doesn't want to work, it doesn't work, which makes me feel really bad. People will say you got a lemon, maybe, but it worked when I got it, and I haven't used it a lot. I just use it here and there. But then come here recently, it's been very finicky. Sometimes none of these buttons will come on, the screen won't come on, and then I have to plug the charger in, but it doesn't matter if it's empty or full. None of the buttons will come on. So normally, even if it's empty, you can press one of these buttons and the screen comes on and it says 0%. Okay. But then I'll plug the charger in, and this actually, the last time it happened was right before filming. I was kind of rehearsing and figuring out what I wanted to talk about, and I was messing with the machine. Or, sorry, before that, none of the things were working, and I knew for sure it was fully charged. But none of the buttons were working. So then I plugged it in to the charger, and the screen popped on and it said 99% capacity. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it's not broken. And this has happened a lot. So then I had my iPad plugged in charging, and I didn't have it charging, and it was only drawing like 7 watts. And I was like, oh, okay, it takes a couple minutes for it to get up to its full capacity. Because like I said, I don't use this all the time. And then all of a sudden, there was a red empty battery or battery icon right up here at the top. It was red, and it went 0, 0, 0, 0%, 0 input, and 0 output. And I'm like, but I know this unit's full. It just said 99%. So then that's why I have it charging right now. Right when I plugged the charger in, it started charging. So it doesn't know, and I don't know if it was empty or if it was full. It said it was 99%, and I knew it was fully charged before I took it on, or at least I believed it was fully charged because I had it plugged in charging. But it decided to just be empty. So it has some goofy quirks, which I thought I was going to avoid by buying a name brand. And this isn't to bash Bluetti. These are complex units, and they're trying to push them out at a price point that's reasonable. And, so you kind of have to take the good or the bad with the good. Which gets to another con, which maybe is not inherent to only this, but I wish if they made a version 2 of this, they had a lockout button. Now, what I mean by that is a physical like toggle or switch. You could turn it to off, and it just nothing turns on. Just recently, we went on a short road trip for a couple days. And before leaving, I was like, hey, I'm going to take this along. It doesn't take up a lot of space, kind of a just in case type of thing. So I put it behind my truck seat. I have a regular cab pickup, but behind the seat there's a storage cubby. So I put this behind the driver's seat, without thinking. I didn't throw it in there, and I didn't cram it in. I just put it in there. It fit very nice. And then I think it was like some jackets and like a travel pillow or something on top. And I didn't think anything of it. Well, when we got back, I took it out and it was acting funny. It wouldn't turn on. And then I finally I plugged the charger in to enable the screen to turn on, and it said 0% charge. And I'm like, there's no way, because before I left, it was full and I didn't use it. And I think I know what happened. And this is, I won't say a design quirk, but kind of. These buttons are very easy to press, right? And I think what happened with, especially this one being located on the bottom, right? Because these aren't like a toggle switch, they just a light press. And I think what happened by being behind the seat, either from moving or adjusting the seat or reclining it or bouncing around, I think the seat hit this button on the bottom and turned the AC on, which powers that powerful 600 watt inverter. So nothing was plugged into it, nothing was charging, but it was sitting all weekend with the inverter on. And the inverter consumes power, a very small amount, but it only consumes a couple watts. But once you divide 268, once you divide it by a couple watts, it doesn't last that long, and when it's on 24/7. So I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So as long as you're cognizant of that, yeah, I should have known better, but I don't travel with this a lot, but I was like, hey, I have it, so I'll just bring it with just in case. And to alleviate it, I was trying to think of solutions, like maybe I should have flipped it around and had the backside facing the seat. Well, the same thing could have happened if the back of the unit got pushed against, the back of the vehicle. This button could be pushed. So if they were to design some type of like physical switch and not a push button, a lockout button, I think that would be a useful modification, because these buttons are far too easy to press, which, yeah, it's kind of convenient. But once I started thinking about it further, I'm like, why do they need to be easy to press? Because you either want it on or you don't. So all of these could be a toggle switch. If you want to for sure charge something, you toggle it on. And then that way, if you're wanting to charge something, what if your dog or cat comes by? Like, we used to have a cat and she would do weird stuff. What if your cat came by, like let's say this was powering something important, like, a CPAP machine or something like that, and your cat comes by and she's rubbing her her face against this unit, and she brushes that button and now it's off, right? When you're wanting it to be on. So that was one thing. Like, yeah, it makes for a clean unit, but they're very sensitive buttons. So maybe they should have went with, a physical toggle switch. But besides that, that's kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly. I like this unit. Like I said, don't expect a lot from it. I think what it's ideal for is for charging electronics. With having this as a backup, the AC output, but this unit, I primarily use just to charge electronics and save for a rainy day. If you were doing like van life and you were using this a lot, I would recommend a higher capacity unit. One last ugly or con, or it's a neutral point for me, is the Bluetooth and the cell phone app. I'm not a fan. Now, by them doing that, they probably saved money and saved having to put extra buttons or make this a touch screen to toggle different features. But it just adds one more thing to break, one more thing to malfunction, one more thing to go wrong. So, and you don't have to get the app, and you don't have to link it to a phone, and frankly a lot of people probably won't. And I linked it and I got the app right when I got the unit, and that was the only time I used it. Like, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, and I was toggling the different charging speeds. But outside of that, it tells you what your input and output are. That's cool, but it also says it right on the screen, right? So that's kind of the last neutral point. It's like, it's cool that it's there, and if you don't want to mess with it, you don't have to. But me being kind of a Luddite, it's one more thing that can malfunction. But this whole unit's kind of been finicky. So I would recommend this. The value on it's pretty good. It's most of the time on sale on Amazon for a little north of $200. You're getting super fast charging, a high inverter to small unit, and the form factor is really good. And those are pretty much the reasons I bought it. In the future, I'm going to be doing more reviews on these solar generators. I'm going to get one or two larger ones, and I'm a fan of them, with caution. And like most things with prepping, don't just rely on one. I know that sounds silly, but if you're planning on buying one of these, plan on buying like 2 or 3 just to have a backup, because on certain days of the week, this thing just wants to act up. So that if you have like 2 or 3 of them, and that's too bad. But I'm sure all the big name companies and all the small makers, this happens to, because I've heard different Bluetti units that just, they go haywire and then they'll start working again. So it's a good unit for what it is. It's finicky. It has good days and bad days. You get high inverter, you get fast charging, you get a free flashlight. And yeah, that's about it. So if you liked this review, if you found it informative, hit the like button. That means a lot. If you've bought this unit and you've had similar problems, let me know if you found a way to fix them. And you can go back to my homepage, subscribe, and check out any other videos that you might find interesting. So until next time, we will catch you guys later.